Phew! Oh, excuse me. What a way to start the video. So this is the last part of Module 4, Lesson 6. It was cut into 3 different sections. First, we did US to US conversions. On the last video, we did metric to metric conversions. And on this video, we will be doing US to metric. You will be lying very, very, very heavily on your formula sheet for this one, because most students, most adults, most anybody does not know the conversions between one another. Like, I remember a kilometer is about 6/10 of a mile. Like, I have that one vaguely remembered. And I know that a meter is about the same as a yard, but there's a lot of them that I would have to look up if, like this one, I would never remember that. 1 ounce is 28 grams. I like to try and remember this because of weight. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. But yeah, so we'll be using this a lot. So make sure you have that third row, metric to US, handy, because we'll be using it on every single problem. So we're back to doing what we did in the very first of the 3 sections. When we did US to US, we did them all as proportions, where we set 2 fractions equal and then set our cross products equal to solve. Same thing we're going to do here. So this one is kilograms to pounds. So we set our proportion up, and then just like in the first section, we get our numbers off of the sheet first to fill in the first fraction. And a lot of these, there's 2 of them. Here's kilograms to pounds, and here's kilograms to pounds. I just tell everybody use the first one that you see as you're going down the list. Your answers will be similar, but they might be a decimal place or so off. What Alex does usually is gives you which one of these it wants you to use, so you know. But legally, they're both correct. But if they ask you to use a certain one, you have to. And they're usually only a decimal or 2 off, because these are all rounded values. They're not exact translations. And that's why those little squigglies are there. In between, there's these. Those are squiggly marks showing their approximations. So 0.3 miles is approximate. Oh, miles. Kim. 0.3 or 3/10 of a meter is approximately 1 foot. So that's how those little squiggly marks are read. So we have 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. So in the kilogram we put 1, in the pounds we put 2.2. So just like before, whatever we get off the formula sheet makes the first fraction, and then we go back to the problem to get the information we need. 60 kilograms. So put 60 in the kilogram side, and we need to know how many pounds that is. And like I said, exactly the same as the last or the very first section we did. You'll probably have to use your calculator a little more because of the weird measurements, but that's about it. So 1x we know is just x, and then this is 60 times 2.2. And that's what we'll have to type in our calculator or do by hand, whichever you prefer. So 60 times 2.2, 132. And just like in the first 2 sections, your last step is always to label your answer. So X is in the pounds column. So if you weigh about 132 pounds or 130 pounds, that means you're about 60 kilograms. I wish I still weighed 132 pounds. I would take that. Okay, so next we're doing miles to kilometer. Same thing. So we write miles. Like I said in the first video, I usually just keep it in the same order of the problem just for ease. Miles, kilometer. And then I set up my fractions, and the first one is always from the formula sheet or the conversion sheet. So I just go to the first one, that's miles and kilometers, right there. There's another one. And like I said, you'll get a similar answer, but if Alex gives you one, use the one they give you. If they don't, I just say always use the first one because it's usually the prettiest one. So 1 kilometer, 0.62 miles. So 1 kilometer, 0.62 miles. So the 1 goes in kilometer and 0.62 goes in miles. And it says 50 miles. So the 50 goes up here. And we're trying to find kilometers. So we do our X. So this cross product would be 0.62x equals, and this cross product is 1 times 50, which is 50. So this is part of the reason why we made this a calculator chapter, because of ugly stuff like this. So to finish solving it, the opposite of multiply is divide. So divide both sides by 0.62. That divided by itself is 1, so that gives us x is 50 divided by 0.62. So that is, and does it say, oh, right here. It's going to say the minute I see the calculator full, I look for a rounding statement, because you don't get to decide whether you round or not or what place you round to. So the minute I saw that full screen, I'm like, what are we going to do? And then I looked up here, nearest thousandths, TH. So that means 3 decimal places, because 1,000 has 3 zeros. So 6, 4, 5. So we're looking at the 5. And we say to ourselves, just like we did back when we did this in the other module, or the previous modules, 5 followed by a 1 says keep it 5. And our only choices is, does it stay 5 or become 6? The number after it decides. 5 followed by a 1 says keep it 5. So 80.645, rounded to the nearest thousandths. And then the last point on every problem in this chapter is the proper label. X is kilometers. So when you're going 80 kilometers per hour, that's approximately the same thing as 50 kilometers per hour, or 50 miles per hour. Let me plug my laptop in. It just went dark on me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's have you guys do the next two. So liters to quarts and yards to centimeters. Okay, so turn off the video, work on those two, and then come back and we'll check them together. Okay, so on this one, we're comparing liters to quarts. So liters to quarts is capacity. So 1 liter is approximately 1.06 quarts. So what you should deduce from this is a liter is almost exactly the same thing as a quart. Look how close they are. So when you say a 2-liter bottle of soda, that's really a 2-quart bottle of soda, 2.12. So liters, quarts, almost identical, 1 to 1. Quarts just a tiny bit bigger. So 1 liter, 1.06 quarts. So 1 goes in the liter, 1.06 goes in the quarts. Then this says 2 liters. And we want to know how many quarts. So multiplying across, 1 times x is x. Multiplying across this way, 2 times 1.06. I think we can do that one in our head. 1 times 2 is 2, and 6 times 2 is 12. So that would be 2.12. And then to get the label, quarts. So 2 liters is just a little bit more than 2 quarts. So 2 and some change on the quartz. Everybody do okay on that one? Okay, next we have yards to centimeters. That's length. So I go, yard to meters. And I go, whoa, this isn't working. I don't have a yard to centimeters. So is that the same thing you guys did to when you were doing it? So what does that mean? I need to use our methods from the last section to change centimeters into meters. Then I can use this one. So this problem is a two-step problem. So first we have to change so that one doesn't have a number, so we're going to have to go here and change this into centimeters. So 1 meter is how many centimeters? So let's do our King Henry died making dopey cows moo moo. So we need to change centimeters into meters in order to use this. So, or actually I just said that backwards again. We need to change 1 meter into centimeters in order to use this thing. So we're on the meters, so we're 1 meter, and 1 has its decimal right there. And we need to change it into centimeters. That says 1, 2 to the right. 1, 2 to the right means 100. So instead of 1 meter equals, and what did that formula sheet say again? 1 meter equals 1.09 yards. We know that 1 meter means 100 centimeters, so 100 centimeters equals 1.09 yards. So anytime your measurement is not there in your formula sheet, that means you need to change your formula sheet to match this. So 1 meter on the formula sheet turns into 100 centimeters. And you're not supposed to write on this. I am, just because I'm doing the videos, but don't write on this. You're not supposed to write on it before the test. So we have 100 centimeters, because that's the same thing as 1 meter we just saw here. 1, 2 is also 1.09 yards. So now we can do yards to centimeters, because now we have the correct conversion. So sometimes they can get a little tricky and you have to do a little bit of back work using your last section to give you the conversion you need. So yards to centimeters, So 1.09 yards is 100 centimeters. And this says 1 yard, so put 1 on the yard, is how many centimeters? And then we just set our cross products equal and solve. So we're going to have to use up some of this space here. So going this way, we have 1.09x. And remember, that means 1.09 times x equals 1 times 100. And then it's just a one-step problem. To get x alone, you do the opposite, which is divide by 1.09. And that gives us 100 divided by 1.09. And that is, and remember it says thousandths, so underline the thousandths place. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths is 3. And I asked myself, does it stay 3 or become 4? 3 followed by a 1 says keep it 3. So 91.743. So x equals 91.743. Let me just check that I copied that right. Yep. And then I look at my proportion to see that is centimeters. And we knew it was going to be close to 100 because 100 centimeters is 1.09 yards. So a little less than 1.09, 1 yard would be a little less than 100, and you can see that answer makes sense. That's a little less than 100. Okay, I think we are ready to move on to some word problems. Okay, I just dropped a pen. Sorry. At least the dog isn't snoring in the background. We got that going. So Sue recently took up lap swimming in a 25-meter long pool. This means one lap is equal to 50 meters. So when I read something like that, that they're obviously trying to get across to us, I write it down. So one lap equals 50 meters. How many laps must Sue swim to reach 1 mile? Round to the nearest lap. So what we have to do is figure out how many meters a mile is. And then I'm going to have to divide because I want to know how many 50s go into that number. But until I can do it, I need to know this as meters. So 1 mile equals how many meters? And do you see that? Remember how I said our units always have to be the same. And miles and meters are not. So let's look on our formula sheet and see if we have miles and meters. Maybe we'll get lucky. So miles, remember, is MI. So this is miles to kilometers, miles to kilometers. No such luck. So, like I said, sometimes they get a little bit tricky. So what we're going to have to do is change 1 mile into kilometers, and then change kilometers into meters. So we know 1 mile equals, and according to this sheet, 1 mile, so we have to go down to where it says 1 mile. So this one says 1 kilometer. So this one, 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. So 1 mile equals 1.61. So this is an example where you wouldn't use the first one because you need to know what 1 mile is. 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. But now I have and this is like a 3-part question. So first you have to change miles into kilometers. Then you have to change kilometers into meters. Then you have to divide to find out how many laps are in that. So that means 1 mile equals, oops, I guess I don't have to repeat that because I already wrote down meters. So we need to change kilometers into meters. So we need to go back to King Henry up here. Maybe we can sneak this in. Let's see if we can. So right now we have 1.61 kilometers. 1.61. And we need to change that into meters. So to change it into meters, it's 1, 2, 3 to the right. So 1, 2, 3. So that means we need to add a 0. So that would be 1610 meters. Because we multiply this number by 1,000, and that's what we get, because that's what moving 3 places to the left means. That's the same thing as multiplying by 10, 100, 1,000. So 1.61 multiplied by 1,000 turns into 1,610. So now we have our conversion, finally. So we want her to go 1 mile. We want to know how many of these laps fit into 1 mile. So that would be 1610 divided by 50, because we want to know how many of these fit into this mile, because she needs to reach a mile. So then we can use our calculator. I wouldn't recommend doing this one by hand. I mean, not that it's impossible, but it's just one of those when you're glad you have a calculator. Divided by 50, and it says round to the nearest lap. So 32.2, nearest lap means whole number. 2 followed by a 2 says leave it the whole number 32. So that would be approximately 32 laps. And that's usually what we do when we round an answer, especially to a word problem like this, because 32 laps isn't really going to be enough to make a mile. She has to do 32.2 laps, which is over 32. So we do approximately 32 laps. We'll have her swimming a full mile. So 3-part problem. So first you had to change kilometers into meters. And then you had to decide how many laps fit into 1 mile, which is this many kilometers, because we need these to be the same in order to divide them. So now they're both meters. That's what allowed us to divide them. So find your conversion on the sheet, change your conversion into the unit you need, meters, using King Henry Died, and then do your division. So that was a little bit of a busy problem, huh? Okay, so I think 8 would be a good one for you guys to work on. Let's see if we'll do 6. Each student will need 30 to perform. There are 20 students. The solution is ordered in liters. So how many liters? Oh, this is a good one. I like it too. Okay, so we have 30 ounces, and each student has to have that much. So first we need to find out how many ounces. So 30 ounces times 20 students. And we can use our little shortcut we've learned in previous chapters. 3 times 2 is 6. Add 2 zeros. So we need 600 ounces. But this says, oh, we're ordering in liters. So how many liters must be needed so that there's enough solution for every student? So it says to round to the nearest liter, but you're really going to have to round up because you need the same amount for each student. But hopefully it's a round up problem. So now we have to change 600 ounces is how many liters? So we have to go ounces to liters, and I'm going to bet money based on the previous problems we're not going to have an ounces to liters. Ounces to milliliters, and that's it. So we're going to have to change it to milliliters. Let's see, so we're going to have to do ounces into either gallons or quarts, aren't we, in order to get it turned into a liter. So gallon to liter, quart to liter, quart to liter. So yeah, we're going to have to use our, this is a tough one actually. I thought it was easier than it really was. We're going to have to use our gallon man to figure out how many quarts is 600 ounces. because we know quarts to liters, it's on this sheet twice. So as long as we can get it from into a quart, then we can turn it into a liter. So we're going to have to turn this into quarts. So gallon man to the rescue. So we have the gallon man, who is made up of 4 quarts. We just need to know how many ounces are in each quart. So we have each quart is divided into 2 pints, as we learned a couple sections ago. I think on the first section, wasn't it? First section of this chapter. And do we know how many ounces are? We only know how many ounces are in a cup from our formula sheet. I just peeked over here. We know how many ounces are in a cup, but that's it. So we need to figure out how many cups. So each pint is divided into 2 cups. Remember how I said just keep dividing them in half till you get down to the cups? So we need to know how many cups are in a quart. So it looks like, just look at 1 quart. So it looks like a quart is 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. So 1 quart equals 4 cups. But each cup is 8 ounces. So then we have to take that times 8. So 1 quart equals 32 ounces. So finally we have a, well, that's a lot of work. So 4 cups in a quart, which we can see from Gallon Man, but from our formula sheet it says every cup has 8 ounces. So 8 ounces, 8 ounces, 8 ounces, 8 ounces, 8 times 4, 32. So we finally know how many ounces are in a cup, or in a quart, excuse me. So now we got to change this to quarts, because there's not a conversion for this, but there is a conversion for this. So we need to make it look like this, quarts to liters. So our next goal is convert 600 ounces is how many quarts? Blank quarts. So we're going to use this 1 quart, 32 ounces. So ounces to quart. And I don't ever remember any ones this hard on your test, so don't freak out if you see this. On the next page, I'll highlight the ones that are on your test. So ounces to quarts, ounces to quarts. So first we use from our formula sheet, 32 ounces, 1 quart. We want to know 600 ounces is how many quarts. So we get 32 times x equals 600. Divide both sides by 32. And x equals, so 600 divided by 32. I'm sure it's not going to go in evenly. Whoops, I think I put, anytime you get an error message, did you see what I do? Hit the clear and it will tell you what you did wrong. It says, hey Dunce Norris, you typed a negative sign at the end. So I just hit delete. Now I can hit enter again without typing again. Oh, that's a nice number, 18.75. So that means 600 ounces equals 18.75 quarts. Wow, what a problem. So now, not that we're done, So now we have to take 18.75 quarts and turn that into liters. So 600 ounces is 18.75 quarts. Now we need to answer the question, how many liters do they need to order? So now we got to do a whole nother problem. So much for number 7. We're skipping it after this monster problem. So we have quarts over liters. So quart over liter. Set up our proportion and then we'll finally be done. So we have to look on our formula sheet for quarts to liters. So 1 liter, 1.06 quarts. 1 liter, 1.06 quarts. So just put them in the right order. 1 with liter, that with quarts, and we have 18.75 quarts. And we want to know how many liters, so there's my X. So we have 1.06x times X equals 1 times this, which is 18.75. So we just have a little calculator division and we're finally done with this problem. So divide by 1.06, divide by 1.06. So 18.75. Oh, look, it's already in our calculator. So we can leave it there and just click divided by 1.06. So it will take your last answer and divide it. Round it to the nearest thousandths, like the directions said, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 8, followed by a 6, says bump it up. So that turns into 9. So 17.68. Actually, this one says round to the nearest liter. So liter would be this number. 17 liters followed by a 6 means make it 18 liters. So we would say approximately 18 liters. That's rounding up to the nearest liter because the solution is only sold in liters, evidently. I'll write my X here. So X is approximately, what was it? 17.689. And then because it said round to the nearest liter, 17 followed by a 6 says bump it up to 18. Okay, we are done with this side. Those were some hard problems. I had no idea. I guess I haven't done that many in class because usually we don't have as much time in class. Okay, so let's find ones that are on the test. So this one I know for a fact is on the test. So let's start with this one. And since you guys haven't got to do one on your own yet, I'm going to let you do this one since it's on your test. So we want to know 100 kilometers per hour, but this guy needs to know what that is in miles per hour. So in other words, you're changing kilometers to miles. It's a one-step problem. We're not going to do any more of those 53,000 step problems. Let's concentrate on the ones like the test. So you're going to do kilometers to miles. Okay, so go ahead and shut off your video and we will come back and we'll check it together. Okay, so we have kilometers to miles, and it's really kilometers per hour to miles per hour, but that's the same thing as kilometers to miles when we're doing the conversions. So if you pulled the first one from the sheet, kilometers to miles. Where's the first one? Right there. So 1 kilometer, 0.62 miles. And if you pulled the other one, you'll get a similar answer, just not exactly. So 1 kilometer, 0.62 miles. So 1, 0.62. So there's our conversion from the conversion sheet. Now we have to use the problem. 100 kilometers, so put 100 here, and convert this to miles per hour, so that's x. So we can see right here, it's going to be 1 times x, which is just x, equals 100 times 0.62. And 1x is just x. And don't pick up your calculator, don't you guys dare. In Module 2, you learned how to do this. When you multiply by 100, that means move the decimal 2 to the right. So that would be 62 miles per hour. And I didn't have to do any rounding, it came out a whole number. So multiplying by 100 says move your decimal 2 to the right. So that would be 62 miles per hour. And I know for a fact that one is on your test. Okay, and I found 2 other simple ones just to finish up this lesson. They're single step problems like this one. So let's do 10 and then you guys can do 11. So number 10 says cough syrup says that 1 dose is 25 milliliters. How many ounces are in 1 dose? So we're changing milliliters to ounces. So we go to our sheet. This is capacity, and milliliters to ounces right there. 29.57 milliliters is 1 ounce. So 29.57 milliliters equals 1 ounce. And milliliters, I used to teach a consumer math class in high school, and one of the things we wanted students to understand is what is a milliliter? When you hear this foreign language, do you know what a milliliter is? And our textbook told us to think of a drop coming out of a dropper. That's how much a milliliter is. So that means 30 drops out of the dropper to make 1 ounce. So that's how I think of things. I try to equate it. They were talking about, oh, now I'm not going to remember how much a shoestring weighs, but I can't remember what that converted to. It wasn't kilograms. But yeah, they just made a lot of good comparisons so you can have them in your head, but it was so long ago. But I do remember the milliliters. So 30 droplets out of an eyedropper will give you 1 ounce. Okay, and then 25 milliliters goes here. And how many ounces? And the answer says round to the nearest ounce. That means the nearest whole number, because it doesn't say tenth, it doesn't say hundredth, doesn't say thousandths, so that means whole number. So we have 29.57 times x equals 25 times 1, which is 25. To solve an algebra equation, you do the opposite. So the opposite of times is divide. And then this is definitely a calculator problem. I don't feel like this late in the lesson to do a long division problem. So 25 divided by 29.57. And, oh, look at that. So think about that. Round to the nearest ounce. Ounce means whole number. So this is the whole number right here, 0. But 0 followed by an 8 says bump it up. So that 0 is going to turn into a 1. I could just see putting this one on a test and students would write 0.8. That would be the nearest tenth. It says round to the nearest ounce. Ounce is a whole number. So 0 followed by an 8 turns that 0 into 1. So x is approximately 1. And then we look where our x is, ounce. And that makes sense, right? 29.57 ounces is 1 ounce. So 25's about an ounce. It's a little less. So I guess we could have done that problem with no math, huh? Okay, last one's yours and you'll be done with lesson 6 in module 4. So go ahead, set that one up, solve it, put the appropriate label on it, make sure you round to the nearest tenth, always look at the directions. Tenth, 10 has 1 0, so tenth is 1 decimal place. Your answer should have 1 decimal place. And then come back when you're ready to check. Okay, so this one looks like we're going kilograms to pounds. So kilograms to pounds. So we look under weight. 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. We don't need the 0. So 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. 11.4 kilograms is how many pounds? So this is a nice easy one to end the lesson. Yes. So 1 times x is 1x or x. And we set that equal to the other cross product, which is 2.2 times 11.4. I think it's time for the calculator again. So 2.2 times 11.4. 2.2 times 11.4. I always look at my screen before I hit enter to make sure I've typed it right. And you can do parentheses or times, it doesn't matter. So 25.08, but this says round to the nearest tenth. You see how easy it would be to go to Alex and write 25, or to go to Alex and write 25.08? Always read your last line before you do that. Tenth is 1 decimal place, so I underline the decimal place. 0 followed by an 8 says turn it into 1. So approximately 25.1 pounds. So x, show the approximation because it's now rounded. It was already rounded on this step, but now it's rounded. So x is approximately 10th, 25.1, because 0 followed by an 8 says bump it up. And then we look where x is, and that is pounds. And there you have it, the end of lesson 6. And you're going to be so happy when you see lesson 8 in the same chapter. Guess what it is? Solving proportions. You guys are going to be rock stars because you've solved so many proportions in this section. You're going to rock it. So, okay, I'll see you back in the next set of videos. Thank you.